Welcome to Conversations with Corrections, hosted by the Utah Department of Corrections. This occasional podcast features staff, incarcerated individuals, and other stakeholders of the UDC discussing issues that impact corrections, both nationally and within the state of Utah. Here is today's host, Department Spokesman Liam Truchard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Corrections. I'm Liam Truchard, and today we're joined by, and I always make a mistake, so I'm going to hopefully get this right this time, Stevoni Doyle, and it's Stephanie with a V.
Yes.
And Stephanie was formerly incarcerated. Now she works for a behavioral health organization, and she works with AP&P. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into that, I have to ask.
Okay.
You do roller derby.
I do.
Okay, I'm fully in. You got to tell me, how do you get involved in roller derby, and what's it like?
Well, I guess people look at roller derby from the 70s when it was really big and it was on the bank track. It's not like that anymore. We don't have a bank track. It's flat track, but it's a very hard-hitting, full-contact women's sport. I play for Happy Valley Derby Darlings, and I've played for them since 2012. We have our home team that is more like just recreational, a couple home teams we play each other, and then we have our travel team, and we are worldly ranked. We're ranked 44th in the world out of like 500 teams, and we just travel all over and play different teams, and like we've played people from Australia, Canada. And if you want to get involved, like we always want people to come play roller derby.
So is this like football on roller skates?
There's no ball. So basically what it is you have two jammers. So they're people that wear a star on their helmet, and they line up behind 4 blockers from each team, so a total of 8 blockers. And then they go and so the whistle blows, and they try to fight through the pack. And the first jammer to get through the pack is designated lead jammer. And the only thing that does is they can call it off. So they get through that initial pass, and then they go around the track, and then each opposing blocker that they pass is a point. And so if I'm lead jammer and I get through and I go around and I pass everybody and the other jammer breaks through, then because I'm lead jammer, I can call it off and get 4 points, and the other jammer can't get any points. So there's a lot of confusing rules to it. Like we don't punch each other or elbow each other. That's what everybody thinks. But there's a lot of body checking. I would probably liken it more to hockey, but without, because we do like body checks, shoulder checks, just trying to get people out. But there's a lot of things that we don't do is like punch each other. But it is full contact. Pretty intense sport, and I love it.
That's amazing. Any serious injuries from that?
I've had several. I've torn my ACL and my PCL. I've dislocated my shoulder, broke my thumb, broke my arm. So I've had several injuries. I've seen some pretty bad ones too, but I'll keep doing it until they quit giving me replacement body parts. So
that's full street cred in my book.
I love it.
So you were incarcerated for how long?
So I was at the Utah State Prison for 15 months, and then I was transferred from there to federal prison for another 11 months. Total incarceration was 4 years. I did 2 years in county time because I was sentenced to probation with my prison sentence suspended. But obviously I didn't do my probation, so yeah.
So the people we've talked to before, a number of them said there was an event, something happened that changed them, that prompted them to change their lives. Was that something for you?
Absolutely, and it was going to prison. I know that this sounds silly, but I remember when the judge sentenced me, I knew that there was no other choice for me. They weren't going to give me another chance. They weren't going to say, you can try probation again, because I'd messed it up so bad so many times. And so I remember telling the judge, I know you're going to sentence me to prison, and I promise you I'm going to come out a better person. And that's kind of one of the pivotal things that happened. But when I got to prison, like, you have a couple of choices in there. Like, you can work a job and go to school, because I wasn't a high school graduate at the time. Or you can sit in a cell for 23 hours a day. And I made a good choice, which is something that I obviously hadn't done for many years leading up to that. And so I got my GED, and I worked in the kitchen, and just kind of started becoming a productive member of a society, even though it was a prison society. And then federal prison was even bigger than that, because I went to what's called a work camp, and there's like 2 guards there. There's no fence. You're responsible for yourself. And so I had to get myself up and go to work, and it's just, I learned these skills to start being accountable for myself. It's just something that I hadn't done in my whole life. And prison was what changed me. And I'm actually thankful for prison every day. My mom, when I was arrested the last time, she had all of our family write letters to the judge and say, please send her to the prison, because I know if she's in prison, she'll be safe and she's not going to be dead in a ditch somewhere, because that's where I was in my life because of drugs. And she said, she just had everybody write a letter to the judge, and I was so angry. But I look back on that, and I'm so thankful that she did that, because that saved my life.
So you're in prison,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a GED.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any other educational opportunities that you wanted to take advantage of?
There was educational opportunities in prison when I was there. There wasn't a whole lot at the time. It was, I know that there's a lot more now, but there was some small college classes, but I didn't start doing those until I went to federal prison, and then I only did one there. I was just proud of myself for getting the GED, because that's something that I never thought I could accomplish. So yeah.
So what about treatment programs while you were incarcerated?
So I did the Excel program. I did not complete the Excel program. That's a whole other story. But the Excel program was amazing. I absolutely love that program. I love the people there. I love the way that they work. It was just an incredible program, and I know that it's still up and running, and they're still doing an amazing job. I have clients now that come out and talk about the Excel program and how it's just changed their lives.
So you have a very interesting perspective in that you were on one side of AP&P,
Yep.
and now you're on the other side of AP&P.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the first side of AP&P. What was that like, dealing with an agent, coming out to the community, but being under supervision again, right?
Yeah.
What helped you continue that path toward staying out of prison again?
So when I got out of prison, I got out in 2006, and I don't want to name drop my parole officer's name, but he was awesome. So just so you know, he'll know who he is. I was actually really nervous, because I hadn't ever made good decisions out on my own, and so I was really nervous that I was going to mess up again. But I immediately got a job as soon as I got out. I was changing tires for a tire store, and so, it's just kind of crazy. And my agent was, all he said to me is, he's like, as long as you're not using drugs, I know where you live, you're working a job, and you're being responsible. And so slowly I started doing these things, and it was just like every time I had a visit with him, it was just, okay, well, I made it a month. I can make it one more month, and then I can make it one more month. And he would come to my house, and it was almost like, towards the end, it was almost like having a friend at my house. I'd be like, oh yeah, come on in, look at this, and show him, all the cool stuff that I'd done, and my dog, and my soon-to-be husband, and that my kids were involved in my lives again. And so it was a really cool experience. I wish that there would have been, like I was telling her earlier, there's a lot of programs available now for parolees that I wish was available then, but I still think it was a great experience for me.
So you successfully complete parole.
I did.
And then you were working. How did you enter the behavioral health area?
So I started going to college in 2008, and I was going to be a wildlife biologist. I didn't want to have anything to do with substance abuse. I felt like I had just gotten out of that life. I didn't want to go back. And so I started going back in 2008, and then I got pregnant with my youngest son in 2009 and had him in 2010. And just the economy was really bad, and we were struggling, and I needed to go back to work. And so I just randomly out of the blue, I'm like, I got to call up Foothill Residential Treatment Center and see if they just need some help there. And they like immediately had me come in and interview, and then hired me to be like just frontline staff. And I started working there, and then the drug testing lab at Utah County called me and said, "Hey, could you do part-time here too?" And I realized that this is where I belong. I need to work in this field, because by this time it had been 9 years of sobriety, almost 10 years of sobriety. And I was like, why am I not giving back to people? Because if I can change my life where I was, I should be able to like give people a little bit of hope to change their lives. And so once I started working there, I changed my major around, flipped. So that was like a lot of wasted school and money, but it's still okay. And then I went into substance use disorder counseling, and worked for Utah County for a while, became a case manager for a little bit, working with women, and they were involved in DCFS. So that was like another culture shift for me too, because I had DCFS involved in my life when I was in trouble. And so then I was working with them on a professional level, and it was interesting. And then in 2017, I applied for a position to take over the Parole Access to Recovery program, and was hired, and have been doing that ever since.
So Parole Access to Recovery, for those who don't know, we call it PATR.
PATR, yep.
And can you explain a little bit about what that is?
So it is a grant funding for parolees. There are a lot of barriers to getting out of prison. So a lot of times people, when they get out of prison, they don't have a driver's license. They don't have access to transportation. They don't have housing. They don't have clothing. Dental is a big need for people. And so the Department of Corrections has allocated grant money to counties, and we utilize that funding giving to clients to break down some of those barriers. So and every county is a little bit different. We kind of do things a little bit different. But in my county, I think we're the only one that does treatment and the funding together. So they come into me, they get a substance abuse screening and evaluation. We recommend them into treatment services. They UA with us, unless they're in another treatment program.
And UA meaning?
Drug test. So they'll drug test with us. And then I coordinate directly with their parole officers. So I meet with their parole officers. I send them out, weekly information on them. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for all the clients. They can get bus passes from us, gas vouchers, rental assistance for sober living. Dental, like we'll give up to $1,500 for dental services, because meth is really hard on people's teeth, and a lot of clients will come out of prison, and that's just, they don't want to smile, they don't want to talk to people, and your teeth are so important. I know this sounds silly, but like when you're trying to present yourself to the world, like not being able to like smile and talk to them because you're worried about your teeth. And so we can get them some dentures, and there's just a lot of different things that we do. And yeah. So.
How much does your background help you with your current job?
Oh, so much.
In what way?
I have a great BS detector. I also, so I know when clients are using. It's very apparent to me. But aside from that, like I know exactly where these clients are. So, like that whole BS thing is like, I get that, and that's not as important as like being able to empathize with these clients. When they come into my office at first, they have like what I call like 1,000-yard stare. When you're incarcerated for a while and you come out, it's like everything around you is scary. You know what I mean? Like any noise behind you, like people, like, I didn't want people behind me. And it's just because the world is just so much. And in prison, you've got this set routine and these set things happen, and you know what's going to happen day in and day out. But the world's really noisy. And so they come into my office, and I see that. And so I can connect with them immediately, and I can be like, hey, I understand what you're going through. I know that there's a lot of anxiety and that there's so much stuff that you need to get done right now. And I'm here to help you take this one step at a time. And it just, like, I can connect with them on a level that I don't think somebody that hasn't been there can.
What about you as a role model? Do you think that people look at you and know where you've been, that they too can somehow get out of this cycle, get out of this rut, and have a life that they'd be happy with?
I hope that they can. I try to live my life as openly and honest as I can. Like, I don't have any secrets. Like, I'm willing to tell everybody the deepest, darkest parts of my life because I've gone somewhere different than that. And so, I don't just like dump that on a client when they come in. There's a time and a place for me to tell them, hey, I've been where you're at. So, but I hope that I can be a role model. I've had clients come back and after they've completed parole, and they're like, I just want to thank you so much for what you've done. I know that you got through it and you helped me get through it. So I hope I can be a good role model.
So let me ask you, this is let me play devil's advocate for a second. We have, and I think every state has, a contingent of people who ask, why are we doing this for people who have broken the law, who have violated the trust of their families and friends? Why are we spending money on them to help them get better? How would you answer that?
I understand the thought process behind that, especially for repeat offenders a lot. But I've also got to say that we're humans like anybody else. And the most amazing people that I've ever met in my life have been people that are in prison, addicted to something, the most creative, fabulous people. And unfortunately, we have a very, very yucky addiction, or we've made some poor choices in our lives. And I think that everybody deserves to be treated like a human, and everybody deserves a chance to show that they can change their lives and become a productive member of society. I know what I offer in the world today. I try to bring good to the world. And I would never have gotten here if it wouldn't have been for the opportunity for me to change my life. And everybody is touched by addiction. I don't care who you are, everybody is. And if it's your family member or your child, your brother, sister, mom, whatever, you would want them to have the opportunity to change their life and not just be locked away forever. And I understand that there are some crimes and there are some things that people do need to do a lot of time on. But I also know that addiction, the more that we understand it, I think it's like 80% of the population that is incarcerated is from it, their crimes stem from some sort of addiction. And the more that we understand about addiction, the more that we learn that it's an actual disease of the brain. No excuses for people, because I'm not trying to make excuses for people, but we need to treat addiction better instead of, I think, for 100 years, we've been doing it on the back end. Okay, they've committed all these crimes. They've done all this stuff. So let's throw all this money here and take care of all these people when they're in prison, which of course we should. But we also need to look at why this is happening to so many people more and more every day, and now with fentanyl and everything, it's just terrifying. And so I think that there's a lot of reasons for you guys to continue to do this.
What do you think the best part of PATR is, and how does it really benefit those who are involved in it?
Oh, the best part. There's so many good parts, but I'm trying to think if it's the best part for me or the best part for them. I think the best part for the clients that come in there, especially when they don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if like when somebody goes into their first parole appointment, they get a list of things that the board has said you need to do. You need to get a job. You need to go to treatment. You need to have an evaluation for this, an evaluation for that. You need to have a stable housing. And then you need to pay your supervision fees and any restitution that you may have. And like as an offender on parole, and you look at that, and then you have a criminal record on top of it, and you're on parole, and you're like, I've got to do all this, and how am I going to do it? They come into us and we help guide them through that. So they don't know how they're going to get to any of their appointments. First day, we can give them a bus pass, so they can get around and start learning things. We teach them about felony-friendly jobs that they can go apply to. We can help them get their driver's license back in some situations. Like, we don't pay for like fines and restitution, but even if they don't want a bus pass or they live in a rural area, we can give them gas vouchers, and their family members can benefit from that if they're driving them around places, because we have a lot of younger clients that will come in that live with their parents, and their parents will be like, this is really hard, and then we'll give them gas vouchers so they can utilize that to take them to all their appointments and everything. There's just so much good about it. Like, I can't say enough good things about it.
What do your clients say when you tell them you do roller derby?
They think it's awesome. They always say the same thing. Man, I wouldn't ever want to mess with you. I'm really like the nicest person. I guess until I'm on the track, but.
Do you change personalities when you're on the track?
No, I don't think I really change personalities. I'm really nice, but I get almost excited about like being physical, because the roller derby people that are there, it's really funny that the main people that are there are housewives, people that work in the medical profession, or like the counseling profession. We did have a prison guard that worked there for a while. So it's people that do a lot of like customer service and take a lot in. And so it's like this big release of aggression in like a healthy way, and everybody loves each other. So like if somebody hits me really hard and they knock me down, it's like, good job, that was a great hit, and it's just like this release of all that built up yuck that you get during the week. And so, yeah.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. It really does.
It really is.
So for women who are incarcerated with us, what would be your message to them as someone who has been where they are now?
Okay. I might get a little emotional on this, so I'll try to hold it together. But I want to share with the women that are in prison that your story isn't over. I lost my 4 kids to DCFS when I went to prison, and 2 of them I didn't see for 16 years. And one thing that I always told myself is they're going to come back someday and find me, and who do they deserve to find? Some strung out junkie in jail or prison, or to be the best person that I can be? And it's to be the best person that you can be. And every day that you're in here, just think, what am I going to do to be better? And your story isn't over. It isn't the end. They come back, life moves on, and you become a better person. Believe in yourself, and you can get through this.
So, Stevoni, those were really all the questions I had.
Okay.
Was there anything you'd like to tell people?
I guess the thing that I would like to tell everybody is people do change. I know that in today's world, one of the biggest things is people are so polarized, and people can be so set in their ways. And I hear it all the time from like the news and all this other stuff that I try to avoid, is like, people never change their ways. They're always going to be this way. And that's not true. As you grow and you learn and become a better person, people really can change their lives and do something with their lives. And, I will have a parolee sitting across from me that has made horrible mistakes in their lives, and they're human to me. And how easy is it for anybody to be in the situation that these clients are, and just give them a chance to change their lives?
Stevoni Doyle with a V.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. And everyone, thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversations with Corrections. And everybody, take care.
This has been Conversations with Corrections from the Utah Department of Corrections. These podcasts are on our website at corrections.utah.gov or on the UDC YouTube page. Suggestions for a future topic can be sent to corrections@utah.gov. Thank you for joining us.